Good evening. My name is Madison Anderson. I am a Public Information Officer with Northwest Team 2. I want to start by thanking everybody for taking the time to be here tonight as we share information on the Willamette Complex South fires. And we look forward to continuing conversations following tonight's meeting. The meeting is being live streamed to the fire's Facebook page, and we will post a recording following the event. Before we get into tonight's agenda, I do want to take time to thank our hosts, the Willamette National Forest. We're fortunate to be welcomed here in the Middle Fork Ranger Station, and we ask that we respect this place and their staff by exiting out where we came in, picking up after ourselves, and being courteous to the visitor services folks at the front desk. They can answer general forest questions, and they will have the Discover Your Northwest shop open for sales. Restrooms and a drinking fountain, as well as water bottles, are out in the lobby. We ask that you hold your questions till the breakout at the end, and that you please silence your cell phones. Tonight's information will include an incident overview, fire weather, fire behavior, operations, and comments from our agency administrator and the mayor of Oak Ridge, as well as our incident commander. Before we hear from our subject matter experts, I'll begin by sharing some of the current fire statistics. As of this morning's infrared flight data, the Willamette Complex South is a total of 20,699 acres. Going from north to south, the Chalk Fire is about 5,926 acres with 86% containment. The McKinley Fire is 24 acres with 100% containment. The Coffee Pot Fire is 6,187 acres with 100% containment. And the Tire Mountain Fire is 2 acres with 100% containment. The Moss Mountain Fire is 1,603 acres with 9% containment, and the 208 fire is 6,936 acres with 0% containment. I will now pass the mic over to our incident commander for an incident overview.
Good evening. My name is Sonny Caldwell. I'm the incident commander trainee with Northwest Team 2. Before we get started here, I did not go to school for public speaking, so I want to preface everything I say with that before I get started, because I'll probably mess something up. I'm not going to get too specific on our incident. I'm going to leave that to our ops chief next, but I'm going to talk about kind of where we're at nationally and regionally with our fire staffing. We're currently in a preparedness level of 5. That's our maximum preparedness level. So we start at 1 when there's next to no fires, and we work ourselves up to a 5. Our 10-year average is 21 days in a PL, preparedness level of 5. This year, today is our 41st day in a PL 5 this season. So to say that we've been a little bit busy this year would be quite the understatement. We've been extremely busy. Nationally, there are 30 incident management teams currently assigned. That was this morning. I know that there's a lot more on order, specifically in this region. Right now, we have 12 assigned in this region. I think 2 more were filled this afternoon, so that puts us up to 14 incident management teams within Oregon and Washington right now, today. This morning's report was 28 large fires in the region on the landscape. So that's reportable large fires. That was before we accounted for all the fires that were caused by the lightning that went through central Oregon last night and that went all the way to the coast, right? At 1400, I checked Eugene Dispatch's Wildcat. They had 16 new incidents from that lightning already. I would imagine there's more since then. And that's just the Eugene Dispatch. Central Oregon Dispatch, I know, that's my home unit, had well over 20 this morning. So with the multiple emerging incidents across the state, I just wanted to paint that picture for everyone and let them know that we're here, we're fighting for y'all and doing what we can, but we're not the highest priority in the state. So us getting all the resources that we need to do everything that we want to do isn't going to happen. We're just not there, unfortunately. We're not the only show in town. In fact, we're not the most important show in town. And that's just the grim news that we have. What I will say is we took this fire Thursday morning. We have almost 2 more weeks of work here, and we're going to do everything we can to help you all out. I'll pass it on to the next person. Thanks.
Good evening, everybody. My name's Tom Lonka. I'm with the National Weather Service, and my job is to provide up to the minute, up to the day forecast for the incident management team here. So I'll be here for the next 2 weeks providing forecasts. So I'm going to back up just a couple of days and talk about what happened with the weather. We had a very warm, high pressure area settle over the Pacific Northwest, the entire West Coast actually. So without getting too detailed about the weather pattern, high pressure means sinking air. So we really heat up, we dry out. We got to over 100 degrees in the river valley, especially along the Highway 58 corridor a couple days ago. And our relative humidities dropped down to about 10 to 15%. So fire weather conditions were quite extreme. But we've turned a corner beginning yesterday. We had a complex of thunderstorms that moved from the southeast to the northwest. Fortunately, they missed this region. They stayed about 30 miles to the north, so no lightning was observed in this area. But it did bring a change to the weather pattern. We started losing the high pressure. We're bringing in some cooler, more moderated Pacific air, which we like to see when it comes to fire. So we're going to continue that trend. Today, humidities were still above normal as far as the dryness. Temperatures were above normal. But going ahead to tomorrow, the colors on here simply mean critical fire weather conditions. So yesterday, there was a lot of red on here. Today, there was some red. Tomorrow, there's a lot less. We see greens and yellows, so that's very good news. And as we go forward, even better news is coming in the form of rain. It's looking like the next rain system is coming up by midweek. But before we get there, I want to mention that winds are going to be very light. And because we have Pacific flow coming in down the valleys, that's going to mean smoke will be an issue, fog will be an issue. So when you have fog and smoke, it's poor visibility, driving conditions will be hampered in the morning. So we'll have that to contend with. But the good news is the fire weather is going to be much improved. So we'll take that. It does look like by Wednesday there is a very good chance of rain. We have a 70% chance here now, midweek, and it looks like an accumulating rain, not just some sprinkles. So I do have some numbers. We like probabilities, so I'll go ahead and give you a couple statistics here. So 70% chance of any precipitation, 50% chance of greater than a quarter of an inch, a 40% chance of a half inch or more, and a 20% chance of over an inch. And it doesn't look like it's going to be a flood event. It's going to be an all-day rain. So we don't want flash flooding and mudslides, and it doesn't look like it's going to be that severe. But it does look like very beneficial rain is coming our way. And then going beyond Wednesday, the Pacific flow is going to remain with us. We don't have another heat dome coming in the foreseeable future. East winds are very bad here. There's no east winds in the forecast. So very good news there. And I want to thank you for being here. Have a good evening.
Good afternoon, everybody. Shaniko Cowie. So my position on the fire is a fire behavior analyst. So I spend my time observing the fire and then trying to make predictions about what's going to happen in the short and long-term future. I'm going to talk a little bit about what's happened the past few days on the fires within this complex, and then I'll do a little projection out through the same period that the IMET was going over. So we did have this very hot, dry weather for the last 4 to 5 days. The chalk fire up at the top of the map, that's the fire that's closest to Oak Ridge. That fire did not have any growth. It all stayed within the containment lines that they've had. It is burning out interior, so it is still producing some smoke. The coffee pot fire is the same thing. Very little activity on that fire. Moving down to Moss Mountain, that fire has been growing the past few days, not a large amount of growth, but it's starting to fill in this triangle at the north end of the fire between the 23 road and the Groundhog Creek. Where a lot of the smoke and a lot of the activity has been on the 208 fire, there was a couple days in a row where it doubled or tripled in size and did grow quite a bit. mostly to the north and to the, well, northeast, south. Anyways, it's growing in all directions. The conditions are really moderating as we go into the next week. The growth is going to slow down considerably. Of course, it has kind of spread itself out across the landscape, so there's a lot of open flame, a lot of things that are burning, and those are going to continue to burn probably until it's going to slow down a lot when we get this weather, but then it'll really be winter that fully puts these out. It's the moisture in the air is one of the things that's really going to slow down the growth. The position on the slope, a lot of those, our fire is very high up on the hill, and fire really likes to burn uphill. Like Tom said, we don't have any east wind events predicted, and we have rain incoming that's drastically going to slow down the fire. So there's going to be growth both on the 208 and Moss Mountain over the next few days, but it's going to slow down from what we've been observing the past few days. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Brandon Lewis, and I'm one of the ops section chiefs with Northwest Team 2. So I get to work with all the great firefighters and resources we have out on the ground. Thank you for sitting in the front row. It was looking pretty lonely up here until you sat down, so I appreciate that. So can we go back to the last slide where it had all 4 fires? Sorry about that. I know I told you something different earlier. So I wanted to start with this slide to highlight, I'm going to go into the operations and what we've been encountering since we've been here, but I felt this was a good slide to highlight the values that have been being protected. When we come into fires, we have to prioritize when there's multiple fires. And when we start prioritizing, we start talking about communities, life, property, infrastructure. So when I look at this map, and when I got the call that we were coming to this fire and started looking at information, these 2 fires, the Chalk, Coffee Pot, 4 fires I can count, McKinley and Tire Mountain, all those fires are proximity closer to what we would consider high values, the communities that are out there, the Highway 58 corridor, the railway system, all those things that we prioritize. And for the most part, those fires are contained. There was a ton of good work put into those before we got here, and we're continuing to put a bunch of work in. As we get further away from those values, as we'll talk about Moss Mountain and the 208 fire, I'm not saying there's not values that are threatened by those, but they're not the values that we prioritize higher than life, property, and infrastructure. So as I go through this, that'll just be a common theme with values and where we're putting effort in now. Okay, now the next slide, please. All right, so we'll start on the Chalk fire. That fire is in pretty good shape. It's 100% contained. This island of unburned fuel in here is a pretty big island, and previous teams, I believe the Alaska team and Eastern Area team, both tried to burn that out in their tenure and had very minimal, I'll say, success doing that. Fuels weren't receptive. They put a lot of ping pong balls, aviation, drops these balls in that start on fire, and very few of them took off. As we took this fire over on Thursday, we had that hot, dry weather. That island really started picking up in activity. We put a bunch of aviation assets up there to cool that down. So if it decided to make a run to really the one avenue that's not surrounded by fires, that we could damper that run down, and we're really successful with that. And we're continuing as we move forward to put the effort into that. I will say that with the weather, it's done a lot of good cleanup in there, so there's less potential now as we go into this cooling trend, and it's really eliminated a lot of the threat there. The McKinley Creek fire is 100% contained, and the Tire Mountain is 100% contained, and those are really just in patrol at this point. As we move forward, we're gonna, on all these fires, we'll continue to have the staff out there and patrol, monitor, and start our repair work, which is hauling the material that was done when we put the fuel brakes in, the logs, the slash, doing road repair, trying to fix anything that was damaged by suppression actions. Okay, let's move down to the next one. Okay, the Coffee Pot fire, again, another one that was 100% contained when we got here. a lot of good work, and that was a pretty easy black line in my mind. Great spot for a fire to run into and provide us with an opportunity to focus elsewhere. We have seen, similar to what I talked about earlier, on the east side of this fire, those unburned islands have picked up in activity the last couple days, started to clean those up, and really haven't threatened our lines much, but we have had a lot of attention with folks and resources over there to watch that. Coming over to the Moss Mountain fire, that's one of the ones that, because of the location and fuels that were out there, maybe not necessarily the fuels, but more the location, we're utilizing an indirect strategy on that. It's pretty rugged country, I'm sure, as all of you know, very steep, very thick timber, and putting resources indirect on that just wasn't an option for us, and still isn't. We've got this kind of pyramid as our indirect strategy on that fire, but we are utilizing a couple road systems in here and along this section that is, the fire hasn't crossed those, but they're also not great locations that we want to put a ton of people into. So as the fire is backing down, it's hitting those road systems, dozer lines, and is really kind of just dampering itself out and hasn't crossed there. So overall, it's looking pretty good. It has come pretty close to hitting I believe this is the 21 road here, to bumping at least the riparian area along the 21 road, but we're not seeing anything that's threatening the lines. And as we look at the weather matrix with the cooling trend and potential moisture that's coming in, good opportunity for that to mellow out and just continue to back down to our lines. Going down to the 208 fire, that one's been kind of a beast since we showed up. It let us know it was out there on our shadow day with the Eastern Area team, and then Thursday when we took over, it was moving by then. Again, that was one that was deep in the wilderness. I understand the priorities of that one sitting out there and the potential that it had. I'm sure everybody here did too. But as it's continued to move out of the wilderness now, we're utilizing, again, an indirect strategy on it, trying to neck that down as much as possible, but wanted to get some primary lines in first. The Resources Eastern Area team in particular had started working the 23 road down, tying into another series of roads, and eventually coming over to the line the Red Fire put in just to the east of us, outside of the wilderness boundary. So the south end, we're continuing with that plan. A lot of work going into that. And this fire perimeter isn't necessarily accurate right now. We're pretty close to coming down and hitting this road system down here. That's how much that fire has moved. But it's really started to moderate out in the activity and allowing us the opportunity to get the folks there and make sure that it doesn't cross that 23 road and cause us more problems to the south. Over here on the west side, we're working with the Sierra Pacific Company and other resources to connect this hand line that ties into an old road system and coming up into here and eventually tying into this. Thinking that the way this fire was moving, that this road system here, the 21 road, was not going to stop that fire if it marched over. It's so far stayed on the south side of the 21 road. This spot fire here is a lot bigger now, and we have another area that's coming down over in here. So crews are out there working. They're working those indirect lines. And then as opportunity allows, and as we're going to see with weather, we're going to start prepping the south side of this 21 road to start reducing that box and the potential that's there. I believe that's all I have. I'll be available for questions afterwards. Thanks. Oh, sorry, one more thing. The other high priority thing we have that we're doing is supporting the local district with initial attack resources. And that was really successful today. We sent resources out on at least 3 different fires just to the northeast of the Chalk Fire and are helping maintain those at a smaller scale so we don't have potential for large fires out there. Thank you.
I got one quick question about the road numbers. You said all the fires were south of 21?
I said the 21 and I should have said the 23. My mistake, I'm sorry. Yep.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I'm Cameron Mitchell, the acting district ranger here at Middle Fork Ranger District. welcome to the Middle Fork Ranger Station. I'm really glad that you all could be here and would join us. And for those that are watching online, I'm glad you can be here for that too. We heard the IMT folks here now talk about the fires that they're working on this incident. And I kind of want to connect that to what Jimmer's going to talk about, which are the fires that we're handling as a ranger district right now with our local resources. And these are the new starts that we have accumulated from this lightning storm, where we have several new fires out on the landscape. I think that point of that preparedness level 5 has been on my mind since around July 16th. And that's because since July 16th, we've been in preparedness level 5 for all but a handful of days. And so what that means for folks who don't know is preparedness level 1 means resources are available. Just to put in, Sonny talked about, when you don't have a whole lot of fire in preparedness level 1, the flip side of that is resources are available. Preparedness level 5 means there's a ton of fire on the landscape nationally, and there aren't resources available. Everything is out, whether it's individual firefighter resources or teams. And that's pertinent because that means that we're competing for resources. These fires for us here locally are really important. You as a community are feeling that. There's smoke in the air. There's closures out there. It's limiting access for a hunting season that's now just starting. People have been pulling tags and planning their trips. And it's just your access to trails and to roads are limited. And so this is known. And this is also known that smoke is a really important feature for this community because smoke collects here, but also there's a high occurrence of respiratory and cardiac illness in this community. And so it really impacts people in a personal way. It's not just a nuisance, it's a health problem. So none of this is new to us. And it's I just want you to know I'm acknowledging that's a problem. Right now, we're sending all the resources that we can to these fires, and we're calling for more. Everything we've got, we're pulling from the incident management team, the resources that can be made available. All of our folks are out there fighting fires, but it's not just about what's happening here. It's about what's happening across the entire nation, because we are a part of a national firefighting system that we are sharing resources across the nation. And I think what's really pertinent is bringing it down even just to the state level. When you've got dozens of fire across the state, the most pertinent thing to me is there are communities that have fires in them right now. And we cannot compete with that for resources, and frankly, we shouldn't. We need to protect communities first. And that's something I think that I'm hoping that we can all agree on. That's how we prioritized our fires that have hit us this year. The High Prairie fire was the one we focused on first, and we managed to contain that one. Then we moved outward to fires that could move into town. That's Alpine, Tire Mountain, Chalk, these types of fires, McKinley. So several fires that we managed to get contained. And so then from there, you move down the list to other fires that might be threatening infrastructure, private property, these types of things. So then we move down to Coffee Pot, Moss Mountain, and 217. 208 is very far to the south, wasn't particularly threatening anything, and it's in the wilderness. And we have wilderness values to protect too. And something that's a value for wilderness is that natural processes are supposed to be dominant in those landscapes. So that plays into our prioritization and our firefighting strategy. That doesn't stop the fact that you're seeing a lot of smoke. This prioritization strategy doesn't mean you're not feeling it. But I want to put that out there just so everyone's aware of what we're working through and what we're thinking through. And we are going to continue to ask for the resources that we need. And it's always going to play into the prioritization process. But we'll continue to be out there every single day working these fires. Our local people are out there every single day working these fires. And we're out here, we'll be here with you here in our community. So we're going to have Jimmer here come up in just a second to talk about the local fires, and we'll have a couple presentations more for you. But one thing I wanted to let you know is that once the presentations are done, we'll be around the room, and I hope you do come and talk to us, ask your questions, or just share with us what you will. So come talk with us. We'll be here. Thank you.
Hey, good evening. Jimmer Hunt. I'm the Fire Management Officer here for the Middle Fork Ranger District. I'm going to give you kind of an overview of where we're at currently with some of our new incidents, but I also want to just kind of touch on a couple themes that we kind of brought up throughout the presentations as they relate primarily to our fire folks. So, you know, our local firefighting resources, the crews and engines that live in the community that engage in fire response here, they've been committed to these incidents since July 16th, since they started, right? And they're on every incident, every initial attack, they're touching, they're implementing. When we get through initial attack and catch the fires on the landscape that we can, they're then integrating with the teams, right? So our crews, engines, overhead, all those resources integrate into the team as we're able to, help them develop strategies, help implement tactics on the landscape. And then as lightning comes back in, we shift gears again and are back into initial attack mode. So those folks, the folks in your local community, have been fighting fire pretty much nonstop since July 16th in a very challenging landscape under some pretty intense conditions. So a lot of respect for me for our folks that go out there and do that every day and the commitment they have to protecting the communities and working in this field. To date, we've had about 40 fires on the landscape. I'd give you an exact number, but there's still some in flux that we're trying to find out there. The most recent storm that came in last night, I think it was mentioned there was 16 reported fires, of which the majority of those are unfortunately hosted on the Middle Fork Ranger District. We have between 8 and 10. We're trying to figure out exactly what that number is. And those incidents are primarily contained to the Christie Creek, kind of Chucksney area, just north of Huckleberry Lookout and above the 19 road. So they range in size at this point. We have a couple that are at that half acre to an acre, and then we have some that are probably closer to 15 to 20 that we're continuing to work with assistance from the team who's been able to provide us some additional IA resources and aircraft throughout the day. Kind of farther looking north, the McKenzie District also took lightning. They have an incident that's between 200 and 300 acres in the wilderness, the Linton Fire. So I'm sure that one will come up in the near future too, but that would be on the district to the north, to the Middle Fork. So yeah, that's kind of the number of incidents we currently have going. You know, we're still developing strategy on those new incidents to the north. They may be something we transition depending on what those problematic areas present for us in the near future, but our folks will be out there and integrated on those incidents and with the team for the foreseeable future.
Thanks, Jimmer. I'm Brian Cutchin, Oak Ridge Mayor, and for the Oak Ridge Westford folks that are in the room and dialed in online, welcome and thank you for coming to get the information here. I'll be brief because it's your Saturday night, so and you've got access to experts here of one and not. So what I'd like to do is first touch on, let you know that your city is fully engaged with the IMT as well as the Ranger District, both in providing support, whether it be staging for their gear, utilities, whatever it need. In addition, in communicating our strategic values very early on so they know where those key areas are within the city should it come to it. As well, our fire department is engaged significantly with those folks as well and communicating what's in the city, what's hazardous in the city, if they need to be aware of that kind of thing. So know that your city is actively involved in this in a support role primarily. Next, and as Shannon mentioned to it, it's while there is a forecast of some good weather coming and maybe doing some suppression on these fires, it's a long-term thing. So I ask you to keep that in your mind that that's why you see the smoke, and we need to continue to be focused on that. This team and the previous teams were great in addressing the fires that were nearest to our strategic values, and they've taken put a good ring around all those fires. The ones that are left are further out and unfortunately, much harder to access. So they're working hard. Also, with the smoke as it comes know that there's a resource out there in town, Oak Ridge Air, that can help you if you have issues, if air purifier issues, maybe need an air purifier if you're qualified. They have an office at the Oak Ridge Industrial Park you can go to just as you turn in. They also have a website that's got a great amount of information on how to best manage your house to open those windows when the smoke is clear and close them down quickly before the smoke comes in and gets into your house. So I encourage you, if you are experiencing some smoke issues, to reach out to Oak Ridge Air. Their website has their telephone number as well. Last thing I'd like to do is thank Northwest Team 2 for coming here and the work they've done and will do, as well as the preceding teams. The city is very grateful for the work that you guys do, and I fully expect there'll be another IMT that rolls in behind them, but that's yet to be determined depending on the resources. So I'll hand it off now to Sonny, I believe.
Yeah, thanks for those kind words. We're honored to be here. The first time I was up here, I kind of spoke about numbers and statistics and stuff, and this time I'm going to speak to you from a little more of a personal level. I grew up in Gilchrist, so people that don't know where that is, it's just across the hill. It's about 50 miles from here. It's another small community, much like Oak Ridge. So I understand what it's like to be a part of the small community. I understand how much people care about their neighbors and care about the land that surrounds their town. Since 2018, I've spent part of my summer here every year. Every summer I've been here, whether it's working for the district or whether it's working on the fires. So I do have some connection to Oak Ridge and the community around. I'm not saying that I could walk a day in your shoes or that I know what it's like to walk a day in your shoes. But what I can imagine and be empathetic to is you're probably sick of the smoke. You're probably sick of all the fire traffic on your roads. And you're probably sick of the forests being closed down. And I get it. And what I want to promise to you all is the team that I'm working with, we take that into consideration in every decision that we make. And while we're here, we're going to do our best to make that situation better for you all. Thank you for being here. I'll be around afterwards for any questions that I may answer.
Thank you to all the speakers. We have maps around the room. As it's been mentioned a number of times, we will be having people stationed at each of those maps to talk to you all, answer your questions, and speak to those things online. For those of you who are online, we will continue to monitor the chat and answer any unanswered questions therein. And if our person answering those questions doesn't have a question answer for you, we will reconnect somebody who does have the answer later. Additionally, for Oak Ridge residents and guests, we have the information boards placed throughout the community. I hope that you all have seen those, and I hope that you all know that we do update those daily. So if you are missing information or want to find information, that's a place you can go. We also have a number of online resources. You can find QR codes around the space here, and then the links here online. So please be checking those sites if you're looking for information. We're happy to answer any phone calls if there's information that isn't available that you are looking for. So that's it. Thank you again for being here. This concludes the formal meeting. We hope that you have a nice rest of your evening. Thank you, everyone.